Hey everybody, it's WillBits. We're playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice! Trial time! Let's wrap this puppy up! Crazy time travel shenanigans. So the one thing we found out yesterday is that Saurin was there at the crime scene. I only hope I can get some testimony from him that'll get to the heart of the matter. Mr. Wright. Good morning, Ellen. Look, I'm afraid you might not like the result of today's trial. Nevertheless, don't tell me you still think of going that route. Saurin is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please, try and get a hold of yourself. I believe in Saurin with all my heart. So how dare you doubt him? Regardless of which one of them is found guilty today, it's gonna be devastating for Ellen, isn't it? We'll just have to do everything we can. That's the best we can do, you know? The trial is about to begin, Mr. Wright. All right, let's go, Maya. Yeah. Okay. Day 2, court is now in session. All rise.
Court is back in session for the trial of Ellen Wyatt.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
Let's see now. Where were we? Are we not going to tell any jokes? We're just going to jump right in? All right, lot to do, I guess.
In yesterday's session, we found out about the Sprocket family's conspiracy to cover up the murder of Dumas Gloomsbury with a second reception. Taking advantage of our collective shock, the defense, as usual, made a nonsensical claim. Namely, that there was a third person present who struck the victim.
Objection!
It's not nonsensical, you're nonsensical! Don't try to make it sound like I made it all up! The defendant herself made a statement about the existence of a third person, and further investigation has only proven her statement to be true.
And I presume the defense intends to focus on proving the identity of this third person. Is that all right with you, Mr. Edgeworth?
Indeed, Your Honor. In fact, I predict the defense will, most likely, attempt to name Mr. Saurin Sprocket as the true culprit. How did you... What? Quit doing your devil witchcraft, Edgeworth! The driver during the accident that killed Mr. Sprocket's sister was the victim. Therefore, Mr. Sprocket had a motive to murder Mr. Gloomsbury. That's what you plan to assert, is it not, Mr. Wright? Am I that transparent? Come now, Mr. Wright. Did you really think that the police wouldn't uncover this information? Congrats on getting it in one, Mr. Edgeworth. But, you're wrong. Saurin didn't do it. He's innocent. Miss Wyatt, please. He's innocent, I tell you. What is this, Mr. Wright? I thought your claim about the existence of a third person came from the defendant. It did. This is just a minor hiccup where I lost all control of my witness.
Did you not discuss your strategy for today with the defendant, Mr. Wright?
Starting off on the wrong foot again is seriously cutting into my lifespan. It would appear that the defense is in disarray. Therefore, the best way to clear things up is to ask Mr. Sprocket himself what happened. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Saurin Sprocket to the stand. What?
Very well. Bailiff, please bring Mr. Sprocket to the witness stand.
Nice shoes. Kind of weird always starting off on the shoes. But okay.
Witness, please state your name and occupation.
I'm gonna write it down in my book.
Ow! There's something written on this paper airplane. Let's see. Saurin Sprocket, Managing Director of Sprocket Aviation. Oh. Is that how you're going to answer every questions? Mr. Sprocket, please give your answer in words, not paper airplanes.
What about wooden airplanes? Can I give answers in that? Now then, Mr. Sprocket. Please tell that doubting lawyer there what really happened at the time of the crime. Well, Mr. Sprocket? Mr. Sprocket! Alright. I'll stop playing with it. Good. You want me to talk about what happened when the crime occurred? In other words, after the first wedding reception. When Ellen and I were in the reception hall, right? Not even the power of the court can stop him from marching to the beat of his own drum. Witness testimony! I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall, and I collapsed to the floor. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already... I don't want to believe it, but it must have been Ellen. Nothing else makes sense. Wait just a minute here. You actually think Miss Wyatt killed the victim? That's right. Dumas was killed by Ellen. This is unbelievable. How can you suspect your bride, the woman you love?
Objection!
Little grimace there, biting his teeth. The truth can be cruel. Miss Wyatt, you must be very upset. Is there anything you wish to say? No. I can't believe this. Saurin. I thought that at least you would believe in me. The best way now to show your love for your groom is to admit your guilt and try to atone. Saurin, are we gonna have a little lover spat?
Hold it!
Mr. Edgeworth, I haven't even cross-examined the witness yet. And quit picking on the clearly distraught. Yeah, that's not cool, Mr. Edgeworth. A court is where we seek the truth. And the truth is unyielding, even to the truly pitiful.
Mr. Edgeworth, I find it distasteful to make a lady cry.
Ugh. It too, Your Honor. So what are you gonna do, Nick? If the third person Ellen saw on the Vista deck was Saurin, then we have to prove Saurin was there at the time of the murder. I don't see any obvious inconsistencies in his testimony, but we have to push forward by pressing everything. I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall, and I collapsed to the floor.
Hold it!
Okay. Please tell me everything you can about when you got stabbed. After the reception, Ellen and I were enjoying a moment alone in the reception hall. Yeah, I bet you were enjoying it. Then Dumas appeared and stabbed me. Less good.
He stabbed Ellen and the timekeeper and left the reception hall.
Did Mr. Bloomsbury say anything at that time?
I don't remember. After I was stabbed, I was immobilized by the pain.
I see.
The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck.
Hold it!
Okay. The Vista deck, huh? But it was nighttime then. Could you really see them in the darkness?
The moon was out, so I could see them clearly. The moon was out and they were both so beautiful. From the looks of it, Dumas was trying to push Ellen and the timekeeper off the side.
So you saw the defendant about to be thrown off the airship, you say?
That's right.
In such a desperate situation, it would only be natural for her to fight for her life. And the murder weapon was right there, within her grasp. Ugh, this isn't going well at all. I've got to do something, fast!
I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck.
Hold it!
I understand that your bride was in danger, but were you really able to move with a stab wound to the gut?
I was desperately trying to push the pain out of my mind.
I see. So adrenaline kicked in and gave you strength. Is that right? I don't see much of anything in this statement I can refute.
That's right.
I
almost passed out several times as I made my way to the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already...
Hold it!
Are you absolutely sure, Mr. Sprocket, that by the time you got to the Vista deck, the murder had already been committed?
Yes.
But the Vista deck is just on the other side of the glass windows in the reception hall. Shouldn't you have been able to get there right away?
Objection!
Mr. Wright, have you investigated nothing? The only way to the Vista deck is to go to the hold and take the lift. You can't go out the doors at all? That seems weird, actually. I feel like there should be a door right there. But I'm not designing airships, so no matter how much one hurries, it would take at least 10 minutes due to the elevator speeds. Huh. Well, that's unhelpful and inconvenient and weird. But Saurin had to have gotten there before the murder, or my claim won't stand. Do you have any ideas for me, Maya?
It's definitely easier to prove that someone did go to the hold than not. I mean, you can't leave anything if you don't go someplace, right?
Can't leave anything. Wait a minute. I think Maya's onto something here. The lack of a certain something actually proves that Saurin didn't go to the hold. What? The lack of a certain something. What's the matter? Are you stumped already? No, I'm far from stumped, Mr. Edgeworth. I know for a fact that Mr. Sprocket didn't go to the hold. You and your paper-thin bluffs. Mr. Sprocket's bloodstain on the lift proves he went through the hold. So what possible proof could you have that he did not, in fact, go through there? You want proof? You got it! You can do this, Phoenix! There's gotta be proof that Saurin didn't go through the hold.
Well, Mr. Wright,
This proves that Mr. Sprocket didn't go through the hold. Let's see. What is missing? Would it be the log of hold entry record? A record of key cards used to access the airship hold, I think. Because his name isn't on here in any way. 34, 35, 36. Unless he went through with somebody else, he didn't access the hold at all, I think. So it's probably the entry record.
Take that!
As anyone can see from the hold entry record, there's absolutely no mention of Saurin Sprocket ever entering the hold. The defense asserts that Mr. Sprocket used a different route to get to the Vista deck. You can assert all you want, Mr. Wright, but can you actually prove another route exists? Can you not? There's no way you can't just walk out onto the Vista deck. Can I prove the existence of another route to the Vista deck, you ask? Let me look at the court record. There's an emergency exit! We had to look at it. I'm gonna save it, but I think we can prove that he used the emergency exit to go around the side if he's that hyped up on adrenaline. I can prove it! Even if it's just a bluff, I have to present something. Anything that could prove the existence of a faster route to the Vista deck.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Show us how Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck.
There is Mr. Sprocket made for the Vista deck through here. He jumped the sweetheart table, he climbed into a Pega-Cow, and then he flew through the Pega-Cow through the window to avoid the broken glass. No, I think it has to be the emergency exit. To save his bride from danger, Mr. Sprocket opened the escape hatch and made his way along the outside wall to the Vista deck. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
That would certainly be a much faster route to the Vista deck.
Objection!
A dangerous one, though. I'm disappointed, Mr. Wright. Is that really the best you could muster? That escape hatch is not meant to be used to get from the reception hall to the Vista deck. One slip and that's all it would take for Mr. Sprocket to plunge to his death.
I have to agree. The defense's claim is really stretching it.
Hold it!
I understand how it sounds, Your Honor. But at this point, it's too early to definitively say that he didn't go that way.
So that's what you're going with then, I take it?
Of course, Your Honor. This is real life, Mr. Wright, not some cinematic drivel or comic book. Do you have some sort of logical explanation to share that would convince us of your claim? I do. Are you sure, Nick? Kind of. Actually, I have nothing. So I'll just have to wing it somehow.
On what do you base your theory that Mr. Sprocket made his way along the outside?
My theory that he was able to go along the outside wall, despite the danger, is based on the power of love, the power of money, or the power of authority. I don't really know. To me, the only one that makes sense is that the power of love overcame, because authority and money, these don't motivate Saurin Sprocket. Saurin loves two things. He loves to fly, and he loves his bride, Ellen Wyatt. To save the bride he loves, the groom risked his life and rushed to her side. Mr. Sprocket was able to make it to the Vista deck, despite the danger. Because of the power of love, da-da-da-da-dum.
The power of love?
Da-da-da-da-dum-dum.
That love is the source of strength that can help one overcome any obstacle. I think I can relate, thanks to my own long, happy marriage, which has never faced any strife, any challenge, none whatsoever. No, my mind has never wandered to any or every woman who's ever come to this court.
Wow, he actually seems to be buying it.
Objection!
The power of love, you say, is not even a good song. That kind of illogical argument is hardly viable in a court of law. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? Wrong judge to be playing this card with.
I'm afraid not, Mr. Edgeworth. You should never underestimate the power of love. You'll understand one day when you get married.
Which I won't ever get married to anyone. I don't care for human beings. Exactly what is wrong with wishing to remain unwed? Way to set him off, Your Honor. Huh, huh. Whoa, we've touched a spot. Never mind all this unscientific nonsense. Are you aware, Mr. Wright, that at the time of the crime, there was a huge propeller turning at full speed between the hatch and the Vista deck? Even if a person were to go outside through the hatch, they'd be blown away in an instant. I thought he was going to say they were going to get chopped up Indiana Jones style, but where does your power of love get you now, Mr. Wright?
A huge spinning propeller, you say? Well, I mean, love is very powerful, but so are propellers. In that case, I have to admit it does seem impossible.
Ugh, I should have known.
Nick, you can't make that kind of face in front of your client. The worst of times are when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles. Right?
Right! I feel like I just saw Mia looking out at me through Maya's eyes.
What's wrong, Nick? Why are you gaping at me like I'm a giant sunfish?
Thank you, Maya. You just helped me remember something really important.
There it is! There's that fearless smile I was looking for. Now give us a mind-blowing theory, just like you always do.
I have to turn my thinking around. Instead of wondering how Saurin could have moved past that huge propeller, I have to think about what would have made it possible for him to do so. Your Honor, Mr. Wright only makes that ridiculous face when his back is pressed against the wall. Therefore, please do hurry and give your ruling before... Mr. Edgeworth! It's still far too early to discount my theory. What are you talking about? The airship's large spinning propellers have already shredded it to pieces. But if we think a little more outside the box, I'm sure we can find a way he could have made it. Stop trying to stall, Mr. Wright, and show us how it could have been even remotely possible, if at all.
I must agree with Mr. Edgeworth.
Very well, Your Honor. There must have been a way. Some way that Saurin could have moved along the wall in spite of the propeller.
Now then, Mr. Wright, what specifically would have made it possible?
This is how it would have been possible for Mr. Sprocket to get to the Vista deck. The propellers were broken, he got to the deck some other way, or the airship wasn't flying. I get the feeling the propellers weren't broken and the airship was flying. Because I don't think that Edgeworth is bluffing about either of those facts. So we have to say that he used another route, that he went out the emergency exit, but he didn't necessarily climb along the edge of the Zeppelin. Instead of going along the outside wall, the witness got to the Vista deck some other way. That's why the propeller is irrelevant to this case. Really now, Mr. Wright. Because as I recall, you were the one who was arguing that Mr. Sprocket made his way to the Vista deck by moving along the outside wall. Why then are you now suggesting that he got to the Vista deck some other way?
I agree. This new argument is a complete about-face.
Oh, I thought maybe he could have gone out that door and then, yes, well,
What we want to know is what would make it possible to move along the outside wall. So please refrain from changing horses midstream, defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Better think this through a little better. Okay. Please let me try again. This is how it would have been possible for Mr. Sprocket to get to the Vista deck. So the propellers work fine, but maybe it is just stopped. What allowed Mr. Sprocket to go along the outside wall in spite of the propellers? is the location of the flying chapel at the time of the crime.
The location of the flying chapel? But wasn't it flying high in the sky?
No, Your Honor, I'm afraid it wasn't.
What? Then where was it?
At the time of the murder, the airship wasn't flying through the sky, but moored to the ground.
What?
And if the airship wasn't flying, then that means the propellers weren't turning. Getting nervous, are we, Saurin? Clickety, clickety, click, 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 click. In which case, Mr. Sprocket could have gotten to the Vista deck along the outside wall. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket? Oh, he stabbed the sharp end of the pin. That's an adorable breakdown.
I don't remember.
Ow, he stabbed himself with his pencil. It's gotta leave a mark.
Objection!
Even if the propellers weren't turning, it would have been far too risky to go that way. But Mr. Edgeworth, you're forgetting about the power of love.
No.
Yes, the amazing power of love.
Dun, 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 dun. Not this again. Stop singing that. Quit. Don't sing the song. Very well. For the sake of argument, let's assume this so-called power of love made it possible for Mr. Sprocket to move along the outside wall of the airship. Can you prove that the airship was tied to the ground as you claim, Mr. Wright? Well, I don't have any evidence that proves where the airship was at the time. Yes, I think we do. You can prove it, can't you? Maya, can you think of anything we can use to prove it?
I can't say I can. Oh, wait. Didn't somebody see something outside a window at the time of the crime? I think I remember someone saying as much.
Do I have a piece of evidence that shows what was outside the airship? Well, what are you waiting for? This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the crime. They are clearly alluding to the adorable, underrated, and not very well selling drawings of Mr. Larry LeButts, in which there is a picture of a pterodactyl out the window. And I've had my suspicions all along about where that pterodactyl ended up. This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the murder. What kind of lousy drawing is that? I'd never pay for that. It's a drawing made by Larry Butts. And what can you prove with that poor attempt at artistry? Larry made this drawing before he switched the lanterns, so it must have been right around when the murder was being committed. Now, if I could direct the court's attention here.
Is that a pterodactyl? Does that mean that the airship actually went back in time to the Cretaceous period? Yes, I know about dinosaurs. Moo. Objection!
We've already proven that time travel is nothing more than a gimmick. A bad gimmick, and of not one under which you should base an entire DLC case. Did we not? We did, and I have no intention of bringing up that argument again. But this drawing shows us an important piece of information. It shows us that the airship was actually moored on the ground. And what makes you so sure? That's easy. All you have to do is consider who made this drawing. Larry. That's right. It was Mr. Butts, and we both know what he's like. He must have seen something else and mistaken it for a pterodactyl. I can't argue with you there. What? Ha! Hey, wait just one doggone second here. What kind of moron do you guys take me for, huh? I saw with my own eyes a pterodactyl flew right by the window, I tell you. I have the sharp eyes of an artist. Don't you believe me? No. Nick! Nope. Some friends you guys are. What about the judge? You believe me, right, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you need to leave this courtroom. Bailiff, if you would, we're in the middle of a trial. You can't just come down here and talk about your art.
Come on, buddy, let's go. Why doesn't anybody believe me? Don't take it personally, Larry. I know you're just being, well, you.
Now then, so you're saying that what Mr. Butts really saw bears some relation to what was outside the airship at the time of the murder?
Yes, Your Honor. At least, I think it does. What this pterodactyl really is will prove the airship was anchored at the mooring dock. And it better anyway. If it doesn't, my whole argument's a bust.
If you're that confident about it, then please go ahead and tell us what it really was.
Yes, Your Honor. Oh, good. I get to point out. Think, Phoenix. What could that pterodactyl have actually been? It's whatever this is. I don't know what it actually is, but you can see a very bird thing. Please take a good look at this sign.
At the sign? It appears to have been broken and then repaired. What does the sign have to do with the pterodactyl?
Please focus on this part of the sign. Oh!
The part that broke off and got reattached? But what about it?
How about if we turn it like this?
Oh, that shape. It's the pterodactyl in the drawing.
What Mr. Butts actually saw was this chunk as it was being blown through the air by wind.
What?
How did it go up? On the day of the murder, there were some heavy winds in the area of the mooring dock. But it's hard to imagine that this sign would make it up as high as an airship would fly. That means the flying chapel must have been anchored at the mooring dock that night. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
Objection!
That's more than enough of this power of love nonsense, you pop culture junkie. Present all the proof you want, but your argument is based far too much in conjecture. Why don't we return to reality now? What do you mean, too much conjecture? There's never too much conjecture. It's delicious.